Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to us, as Muslims, we really understand its importance. And it can be seen how much we care about it, especially when we talk about Ramadan. You see all the Muslims, they're taking care of the recitation of the Quran, they're very keen to understand it and reflect upon it. But even throughout history, you can clearly see how the Muslims truly cared for the Quran. To the point that we even created whole new sciences so that it would cater to the Quran. Whether protection of its narration, or its scripture itself and its writing, or even its understanding or its recitation from devising the rules of tajweed and so forth. And so it is very understandable and it's clear how we care about the Quran. And throughout history there have been many historical figures that had an impact or had their name imprinted in history because of how they served the Quran. Today's figure, we're going to be talking about a historical figure that was even dubbed the guardian of the Quran, Harisatul Quran. And it's a female scholar and a female character in history that is of virtue and importance. And she was called Harisatul Quran, or protector of the Quran. So who was she and why was she called that? She was the fourth wife of the Prophet ﷺ and the daughter of the second Khalifa radiallahu anhu. She had accepted Islam in Mecca after her father had accepted Islam. And she was among those who had migrated to Medina with her husband Khunais ibn Hudhafa. And after her migration to Medina, after the Battle of Badr, Khunais had suffered some injuries and unfortunately had died due to those injuries. At that time, this character was 20 years old of age and she had become widowed. Her father, naturally feeling sorry for his daughter and seeing the pain that she's in and how young she was at that time, he had taken upon himself to search for suitors that are suitable for his daughter. So he had run into Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, who had happened at the same time to also become widowed. And he had asked him and proposed that he would marry his daughter. However, Uthman ibn Affan at that point said, I do not desire to marry at this point. And so naturally the father was upset about this, but he continued on and ran into Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and had proposed that he would marry his wife. However, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq did not respond whatsoever. And so being upset and further angry about this individual, the father, had went to the Prophet ﷺ and discussed and talked to him about the story and told him how he was feeling and how Uthman and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq did not respond to him. And so the Prophet ﷺ at that point asked her hand in marriage. Naturally, the father was very excited, and this is how she became the fourth wife of the Prophet ﷺ. If you haven't figured who this is right now, at this point, it is Hafsa bint Umar ibn al-Khattab. Hafsa, the daughter of Umar ibn al-Khattab. So this is how the story, she had become the fourth wife of the Prophet ﷺ. But what is her story and what are her virtues? Hafsa radiallahu anha was blessed with many virtues. We're going to mention four inshallah quickly, perhaps three or four along the lines. One of the virtues that she had was that she was actually among the scholars, the female scholars at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. She was blessed with being one of those who had learned how to read and write. Now this is something that we take for granted at this time. However, at that time of the Prophet ﷺ, this was something that is very rare. She is one of the few women that were able to read and recite. And so being with the Prophet ﷺ, she had also narrated various hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. And in fact, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, many of the companions and tabi'een would come and ask her questions and she would give her fatwa. One of the other virtues she had was that she was also very pious. She had this beautiful, cautious piety about her, to the point that many of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ viewed her to have a high status in the eyesight of the Prophet ﷺ. Even Aisha radiallahu anha, she would say that Hafsa had a level, كانت تساميني, she had a level that is very close to me among the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. And that she had cautious piety, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected her with that cautious piety. The third virtue she had was that she was known for her acts of worship. She was a person that would constantly fast and pray tahajjud, nightly prayers. To the point that Jibreel alayhi salam had come to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he had told him that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering you to hold on to Hafsa, for she is sawama qawama. She's a person that fasts during the day and prays at night. Can you imagine what kind of status that Hafsa has reached, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send Angel Jibreel to inform the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about this, and to further tell him that she is your wife in Jannah. That's an extremely high status. That is Hafsa radhiyallahu anha. So how did she be called the protector of the Quran? Well, this has to do with after the compilation of the Quran, at the time of the Prophet, at the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the first Khalifa, when they had first compiled the Quran in one volume. Prior to that, there was no consensus in compiling it. This was the first time that all the Sahaba had agreed and come together, and through a meticulous, very detailed review, this book was compiled into one, and was the only compiled review copy. And it remained with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and then with Umar. However, after Umar's death, she was the person that had held the Quran, and held that volume, and kept it and protected it. And when Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu wanted to make copies of it, to spread it or to send it out to the different regions of the Muslim empire, he had requested that copy from Hafsa to make the different copies from it, and then return it back to Hafsa, because she was the protector of the Quran. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who love the Quran, who would like to recite it as in the way that would please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the way to bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair, subhanakallah bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.